tell people, even up at Penn State, I'd be like, look, I know y'all didn't get a chance to see me play, but a 3-star in Florida will be a dog. It will be a 4-star and 5-star up in Pennsylvania. And they'll laugh and they'll say about the Pennsylvania football. But I certainly think it's true. And so, like, after that, like, I feel like that's when, like, they start having, like, different conversations. Like, hey, something's going on. We don't really know what's going on. And so, like, for the sake of you, for the sake of the university, we don't know what it is, but we see it's something that's raising red flags. But at this time, just unfortunately, like, we're just gonna have to keep doing more testing. So I'm like, all right, so 110,000 people wearing all white, you walking along the side, people chanting your name, telling them, hey, next year this gonna be you, seeing all that, and then shoot, second play of the game, Saquon took it like 60, crowd jumping, and so I was like, oh yeah, this is different. I feel like once I got that 4th star, I feel like that's when all the big programs really felt like they tried taking that chance on me and jumping ship, just because once I got that Penn State offer, it really solidified myself. I feel like that's when all the other programs really tried to play that, kind of like that copy game. So, like, if I think they'll offer, hey, you must be doing something good. But
all right, all my Nittany Lion fans out there, I got a good one for you today. This guest of mine was a former 4-star recruit at a Wiregrass Ranch High School. As a senior in high school, 1,183 all-purpose yards, 9 TDs, and 4 interceptions. All right, for his career at Wiregrass Ranch, 15 TDs, 2,010 all-purpose yards, 22 PBUs, and 8 INTs. Was also one of the catalysts for a Wiregrass Ranch football team that went 9-3 overall that year. He also played basketball, but only averaged 6.6 points per game.
We're gonna talk about
Jordan Minor, everybody. Jordan, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me on, Preston. We're going to talk about the basketball question down the road. And I look at myself more as a pass first type of guy. So definitely appreciate you having me on.
I knew you were a dual sport athlete. I said, man, let me go see what he did. And, let me see. But to your credit, your sophomore year, you averaged like 10 points a game your sophomore year.
See, Preston, you got to really talk to head coach, Coach Calzone at Wiregrass, man.
Okay.
So my first love was basketball, but then by the time my football career started picking up, I was just out there having fun with my guys. So if I had a chance to get an open layup, but I got a teammate right here, I'm giving him his buckets. Because at the end of the day, I don't need to shine in basketball because I feel like my path was already taken care of on the football side. So I was just out there having fun, staying in shape, and doing what I love.
So steer the ship right back into your lane, what you're good at, Jordan. So you ended up being a 4-star recruit out of a school at that time that wasn't really on the map for recruiting. I feel like you really brought a lot of attention to that Wesley Chapel area, that Wiregrass Ranch programs, and started picking up steam. Ultimately, you ended up as a 4-star, okay? And no matter whoever feels how they feel about the star rating system, it is a system out there that's universally recognized, so we're going to stay with the star rating. How was your treatment when you went to camps and combines and showcases once you kind of got that 4th star? How did people treat you? Media, coaches, what was it like?
So the funny thing about that is, Preston, it's so crazy like how the switch flips. Just because, like, you know, throughout my recruiting process, I feel like I was kind of like a late bloomer in the recruiting process. I felt like I could have had offers before then, but still any offer was a blessing at any time. But I feel like once I got that 4th star, I feel like that's when all the big programs really felt like they tried taking that chance on me and jumping ship, just because once I got that Penn State offer, it really solidified myself. I feel like that's when all the other programs really tried to play that, kind of like that copy game. So, like, if I think they'll offer, hey, you must be doing something good. But once I got that 4 star, like you mentioned, going to these different visits, going to these different places around the country, it really just shows you just the amount of love, amount of attention, and the amount of recognition you do for all your hard work.
So, backtrack slightly.
Okay.
Who was your first offer? Do you remember?
Yes. My first offer was from Coach Blackwell at the University of Toledo.
Okay.
So that was my first offer. I remember that I got that in spring ball my sophomore year. And so the thing about that, like, I feel like I had a good sophomore year, but I feel like it was a lot of stuff that I left out there just because I think it was my second or my third game of the year against Wesley Chapel. Actually had a really good game. First play of the game, had a kick return for a touchdown, but later that game, I fractured my ankle. So I ended up missing 3 games really should have missed a lot more, but I ended up coming back my fourth game because they said it was about a 6 to 8 week recovery. They said they had seen people do it in 4 to 6. So after that third week, I don't want to miss no more film. Like you mentioned, Wesley Chapel not being in the area for prospects like myself, and I knew that sophomore year going into junior year, especially for my position, was very, very crucial. So I wanted to get as much film as possible. So after that 3.5, 4 weeks, I decided just to finish that rest of my sophomore year. A little bit banged up, but still just wanted to finish it out the year throughout my guys. So I wasn't even expecting it. I feel like I didn't really perform to the best of my ability. But that sophomore year spring, talking to Coach Blackwell, said he's seen a lot of potential in me. And even watching my film, he said he didn't have to see too much to know I was a guy that he wanted. So it was a blessing. Toledo was that first one. Then came Bowling Green. Then it was a little stagnant for a little bit. And then going to my junior year, that's when it really started kicking back up.
Now, I'm going to go off script a little bit. Just gave me something I was thinking about something.
It's all good.
Pasco is not necessarily known for being the hub. Pasco County is not necessarily known for being the hub for college coaches to come hunt down prospects. Was there ever a conversation between you and your family, hey, you think I should go to school in Hillsborough County to get more recognition? Did that ever come about?
So I'm going to be honest with you, Preston. Before, like you mentioned, like you said, Wiregrass, the Pasco County, Wesley Chapel area not really being known for football like that. And I experienced that firsthand because my older brother, he went to Wiregrass. So I was a little kid on the side, playing football on the sides, ball boy, water boy, during Wiregrass's time when they're going 0-10. And so, like, I'm seeing that and just having friends playing football and playing basketball with around the area. Like, you hearing, like, the Armwoods, you hearing, like, the Vernon Hargraves at Wharton's. So, like, you hear about that. And, like, even, like, going back to one of my old Facebook profiles that I seen, it said that I studied at Armwood High School. So I know growing up playing basketball with guys like Warren Thompson and Malcolm Lamar, they were really big on trying to get me over to Armwood. But just having a conversation, it's blank with me who I was having this conversation with. And I was telling them a little bit about my plan. They were saying, just like how you guys, you know Armwood, right? I was like, yeah. You know Wharton, right? Yeah. Why not you be the guy that makes that known for Wiregrass? And so just looking at that as a young kid, about 12, 13 years old at the time, it didn't really hit. But just as I'm going through it, seeing the program change, and then now seeing what the program is now, like being one of those key members that really started this, I would say, Wiregrass turning the change, turning that next chapter as a football and as a sports school. So being a member that's part of that's super special to me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Wiregrass has really become that hub. Number of recruits year in and year out. I think that you started. Well, you know what? Big Bro, see, a lot of people don't know. Big Bro Jay was a player now. I remember Jay, like his sophomore year, he ain't get no love, and then started coming in junior, he started getting a little love, and senior, he really started to get some. Jay was Jay FIU or FAU? FAU, okay? Yeah. So then Lil Minor comes behind Jay. Now let's keep going down this track. You start taking your college visits.
Yeah.
How many did you take? How many official visits did you take?
Official visits, I unfortunately only took one official one, just because at the time where I committed to Penn State. They didn't really want us taking too many other official visits, but at that time, like I knew that's a place where I really wanted to go. I went to a lot of other unofficial visits, like I went to University of Georgia, University of Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina, pretty much anywhere like in the southern radius. Yeah. I took my officials to. The only visits that I didn't take that I really wanted to get out to was Oregon at that time. But around that time, that's when Coach Taggart had that stay and then was flipping to Florida State. And then the next one I wanted to do an official to was Tennessee. But at that time, that's when Butch Jones got fired. Did my boy Mike a little bit dirty, so I was feeling some type of way about that too. But I took all my visits that I wanted to see in person.
Okay, so who did it come down to? Who would like the top 3 to 5? Who would it come down to?
Top 5 programs, obviously Penn State. I really did like Tennessee. I liked Oregon a lot when Coach Taggart was there. I like Kirby Smart at Georgia as well. And then I like the staff at Florida and being able to stay home. Okay,
so why Penn State?
So my honest reason, or you want to hear a podcast answer?
Man, this is what I want. The people want to hear the truth, Joel. We ain't around here playing, man. They want to know the truth. Talk to them.
All right, so the truth is, my family, as well as me, I'm an Ohio kid. So I'm from Canton, Ohio. Literally grew up from the age, I moved to Florida when I was 5, but growing up, literally lived 10 minutes away from the Hall of Fame. So you get on the highway, you get to see the Hall of Fame every day. So I'm an Ohio kid, so all my family is either half Ohio State, half Michigan. Because my mom's from Detroit. All my grandparents, cousins, everything, everybody from Detroit. So we're the only ones that were living in Florida when we moved. But I always grew up Ohio State fan. So Ohio State fan, grew up LeBron fan, all that. So I was one of them type of guys. So everybody in my school pretty much knows, everybody in my team knows I was an Ohio State guy. So Ohio State, they actually came to my school 3 times. Each time, I forgot the guy's name. I believe it was Tony Alford, running back coach, black guy. So they came to my school 3 times, had great conversations. They will always send me mail, talking about come be a Buckeye. We need you to be a Buckeye. So it got to a point, I was like, Coach, did they offer me like this mail? This look handwritten. They say we need you to be a Buckeye, but like I haven't heard nothing. And so I remember there was like this last time, I think it was my junior year, spring, going into my senior year before I committed. It was a funny story. So I was actually at home sick for the day. I was at home sick for the day, and Coach was like, "Hey, Ohio State's here." I was like, I don't have no car at the time, so I ended up making it happen. Made some calls, make it happen. Pull up to the school, meet with the coach. So I'm thinking this is the time, like Preston. But the first couple times talking to me, I wasn't really that high of a prospect. Now at this time, pretty much had the big offers. I pretty much had the Georgias, the Oregons. So he said Ohio State here. I'm pretty sure, like I know what time it is. Right. So I come to the school. We talking. Pretty much nothing came about that conversation. So I was like, all right, like this is the last time. They came 3 times. They obviously didn't want to see me. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, they were actually recruiting another DB in Orlando. His name's Seven Banks. So they were recruiting him too. And so we had played them in 7-on-7 at a Strike 7-on-7 tournament. We ended up beating Jones. And so I was like, this is the guy that they taking over me. I was like, okay, I'm just going to use that as just extra motivation for me. And so then when it comes down to that, I was like, Penn State, my first Power 5 offer. So not the first school that took a chance on me, but like the first big time program where I felt took a chance on me. Power 5 school, playing a Big Ten conference every year. So it means I get to play Ohio State every year, get to play Michigan every year, get to play Michigan State every year, get to play big time football, as well as just for me. I know I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, and so it was just good for me to get away from Florida, getting a chance to just get myself established as a grown man and my own man. Because a lot of people didn't know, I left college at 17 years old, so I was pretty much on my own at 17. So I also used it as a pit stop to go to the NFL. So because I knew, one, I'm going to have to get used to the weather, so go to Ohio State, and I feel like a Florida cat can stick out more in Pennsylvania. So I'll get a chance to get in, learn the playbook, getting able to play right away or soon. So it was definitely across all the boxes for me, and as well as just that great education. So it was a no-brainer for me. Like you said, it came down to a lot of good schools, but I definitely feel that Penn State was a good fit for me.
You land at Penn State, or you commit to Penn State, you sign to Penn State, you get on campus, getting ready for practice, but you never really see the field.
Right.
Take us down that road.
So I remember it, like, it's so crazy. Like, I was just talking to Bryson Rogers. We were just training a couple weeks ago, and like he was making a joke because I was out there giving him a look. He was like, "Man, you got better feet than some people on my team." He was like, "How long has it been?" I looked back, and it's been like 7 years, but I remember it like it was yesterday. So going into college, as you know, playing college ball, you have like that period in the summer, like you do PRPs, little player run practices when the coaches aren't really too involved. So I come in like literally 2 days after I graduated. They wanted me to early enroll first. So I was like, nah, I can't early enroll. I got basketball. Then they were like, all right, we want you to come in May. And I was like, dang, like I got my graduation and other stuff. And they were like, all right, just come right after graduation. So I graduated. 2 days later, I'm up on campus. I'm doing my own work, getting some work in with the guys, playing around practices and all that. And so the funny story about like my situation, so all of the 2018 class, they all, what's the tradition is, all the class, they come from the spring game in April. And so when they come for the spring game in April, they get you on campus like a day before. They have you do your physicals already, so that way you can knock them out by the time you come in the summer. But in Florida, I'm not sure if you know, but in Florida, like a lot of high schools have this thing called grad bash. So it's like a senior trip. So you take like a senior field trip to the Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure. They shut the whole park down, and so that was something that was big for me. So I went to that with my friends. I had this moment to experience that with my friends, and I just came the day after just for the game. So when I came, I didn't do all the testing, but all the other people did all the testing. And so then fast forward back to June, I'm the only one in my class who hasn't done the physical.
Okay.
So then now, getting ready to start first day of workouts. I remember first day of workouts. I was like, let's get it. Like this is the first day official. So we all lined up. We're all doing the vertical test. That's the only test I got to ever do at Penn State. It wasn't like a traditional vertical, but it was like some like calculated thing with vertical, and I ended up doing that. And so then one of the trainers, they ended up grabbing me and they said, "Hey, like you can't do anything until you do your physicals." So then I ended up doing my physical, passed everything, and then I had to end up doing the EKG, which is when they put all the stickers on you, blah blah blah. And so like they asked me like questions, blah blah blah. Like I'm going through it, not thinking really anything of it, just because like I've never had any issues before growing up, and so I'm sitting down waiting for my results, and so they said normally it would just take like 15, 20 minutes to get the results back. So I'm in there 15 minutes, like, all right, like I'm trying to get in there already. Now my mental's already getting messed up for my first day of college ball. So like I'm just all right, I'm trying to get out there. 15, 30, 45 minutes. So they finally come out. Like, hey, like it might be something wrong with our systems, like something's being weird. Like we're just gonna have to take you to the doctor's office to do your EKG test there, because ours is acting a little bit funky. So I was like, all right. So I'm in the car, hop in the car with one of the trainers. They asked me, they're like, have you ever had like any like issues with like your heart before or anything like that? I was like, no. And they're like, have you ever like experienced anything like passed out, like lightheadedness, dizziness? I was like, I mean, like, like playing football, Florida, hot summers, like you gonna have days like where you feel lightheaded. You gonna have days like where you feel like, all right, like, but I'm like, nothing like major, nothing like that really crossed my eyes. So I'm like, all right. And so then now they take me to the doctor. They perform the test. Now we gotta wait for the results to come back. So everyone's they working out. I'm like the only person out of the 125 people on the team. I'm the only person not working out. So I'm like, all right. I'm watching days go by. Now the guys coming to me like, what's up? Like what's going on? Like, why didn't you do anything? I'm like, man, I'm waiting for my results, man. I got nothing. I'm trying to. They're like, come get some work. I'm like, man, I'm trying. So then now days going by. All right, well, hey, we need you to get another test. Like things aren't coming back like how we want to see it. So then now this is when my eyebrows starting to raise, because there's another guy in my class. His name was Nana Asidu, who's a 4-star from Virginia, Army All-American, everything. And so just like a week before like I went on campus, he was the first one in my class. He texted in our group chat. He was like, I'm done, man. It was funny. Michael Parsons was like, what you mean? He was like, bro, I'm like, they called, like, the trainer just called me and said, I'm done. Like, I can't play football no more, because they said it was an issue with his heart. So, like, man, I'm reading it. I'm like I'm feeling bad for him, because, like, I'm like, dang, like, he's a 4-star Army All-American. Like, I was just watching him play in this game. Like, what you mean he's done? And so I know in the back of my mind, I'm like, dang, like, I didn't even take my physical yet. Like, I hope they don't try to say nothing about me. But going back to it, so I'm taking all these tests back to back. Like, I'm taking all these tests. And then it was a time, and like they took me to a facility, and they were saying that like, hey, like we want to try this, we want to try doing this like procedure on you. We want to like try to put like this chip to try to get as close to your heart to you as you can, to like try to get like a closer read. And so like they did that, and so like after that, like I feel like that's when like they started having like different conversations. Like, hey, something's going on. We don't really know what's going on, and so like for the sake of you, for the sake of the university, just because like weeks prior to my incident in the Big Ten, it was a German by the young it was a young man also by the name of Jordan at the University of Maryland, who unfortunately passed away in the summer due to the reasons I don't know, so I don't want to give you any information that is inaccurate. But he passed away, so it was already a spotlight on the Big Ten at that time period. And so like they're saying like, hey, we don't really know what's going on. We don't know what it is, but we see it's something that's raising red flags. But at this time, just unfortunately, like we're just gonna have to keep doing more testing. So I'm like, all right. So at this point, like, I'm already frustrated. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't have a heart condition. Like, but like trying to tell a doctor that, like, you'll understand. Like, but going through that whole process, so now it's just test after test after test. And then I knew it was serious the day, like I come to Penn State, and then my mom and my dad is there, and so I'm like, what are y'all doing here? So they saying at first like they just
without you knowing, they pulled up without you knowing.
Yeah, I didn't know, and so they were like, yeah, like we want to meet with the team, and so they're like, I'm asking them, I'm like, what are y'all here for? And they're basically just like, oh, like for support and everything. And so, like, they were now here coming with me to the appointments, hearing what the doctors are saying. So I'm like, all right. And so then now it got to a point where I'm in a hospital. They ended up taking me to Baltimore, to Johns Hopkins Hospital. Keep in mind, this is now like 10 appointments in. I got here in June. This is now late July, going into August. Still haven't done anything since that first vertical test at Penn State. So now I'm just going back, trying to do workouts on my own, staying in shape, just because, like, like, mentality for the kids. You coming up, like, I'm trying to play as a true freshman, so, like, I'm still trying to stay sharp doing all my own stuff. So they take me all these appointments, and so I ended up talking to a doctor at Johns Hopkins, and so, like, they're basically saying that, like, just by doing all of our testings and everything, like, we aren't 100% certain at this time, but just with all of our expert opinions with all the doctors that met with you, like we are pretty positive that this is the diagnosis that we say that we think you have, and that's the diagnosis is ARVC. Don't tell me the exact name just because I'd be getting mixed up with that, but it's called ARVC. And so then I was like, okay, like what's going on? Like what's next steps? Like what do I do after that? And so now, I keep going back and forth. But at this time as well, Shaq's son as well, Shaquille O'Neal, his son, was going through a heart procedure as well. Ended up having open heart surgery.
Yep.
And so I'm so dedicated, and I'm so diehard about football. I'm willing to do anything. I'm like, what procedures did I have to do? What do I need to do? Like, what's my next steps? And so at this time, I feel like looking back at it, I was the only one in the room not knowing what was going to happen next, because like I feel like it was like a weird dialogue between my trainers, the doctor. Now I'm getting visibly upset. Like, what are y'all trying to tell me? Like that y'all aren't saying it, and they're basically saying that like, well, the doctor was saying, well, it's not my decision whether you play or not. It's ultimately the school's decision, but I wouldn't sign off on it. And so then I'm like, okay, so what does this mean? Like, I understand what you're saying, like you want, but like my team sent me to you. So if you're not signing off on it, but you're saying you don't have the decision, like what's going on? And they're just saying, and like, hey, like this is just what we found. Like ultimately, it's your team's decision. So I'm like, all right. So they ended up taking me back to Penn State, and so we meet in Coach Franklin's office. So now this is the time where it's me in his office, my position coach, head trainers, some other football support staff, parents.
Ooh, that's intimidating right there alone.
Yeah, and so like we're talking, and so the subject just gets brought up about like my health and everything, and then basically saying that like, yeah, the doctor's not going to be able to sign off on this. And so I'm like, well, can I sign off on it? Can I sign a waiver? Like, I personally, it got to a point where it's like,
you would do whatever. You got to do whatever.
They were saying with this, it was like a 0.0003% chance that if you step on this field, like you'll end up suffering cardiac arrest and dying on the field. It was to a point where I was like, I love this so much. I even look at it now that I have kids, but like I love this so much. Like, can I sign a waiver? Is this any waiver that I can sign to take that chance? Just because I've been football, basketball, track, 7-on-7 nonstop my whole life for all these years, haven't had anything. So I felt like just in a 17-year-old mind, I was just ready to take any risk in dealing with all that. And so they were saying like, hey, like we could try to grant your transfer from the school, but you're going to have to take this test at any school you go to. And if you leave Penn State, like you can't leave and come back and still be on scholarship. But if you stay here, we'll honor your scholarship. We'll find you a path that best suits you. And so at that time, parents in the room, everything. I just felt like it was a spotlight on me making that decision right there, of like what I'm gonna do. And like my parents crying because all I knew growing up, like a lot of other kids in the area, a lot of other kids in Florida, like if you don't get a scholarship, you ain't going to college for real.
Right.
So like I knew like this is my scholarship in my hand. Like at the end of the day, like if I leave and take this risk, I may not have that, and I may turn into another statistic or another story. So it really just made me had to make that split second decision, and my football career was over then.
Whew. Boy, that's a lot, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And obviously everybody's career comes to an end at some point, but you kind of want to feel like you're in some kind of control over it.
Right.
You didn't even have a chance to get started. And
At
that's
all.
kind of the messed up part about it, is that you're riding this wave and you're going to knock on the door and it doesn't even open for you, man. I've got a senior, and I can only imagine as a parent having to see the frustration on your face,
Right.
and knowing like for them, they've got to come to grips and settle in on the decision also, because it's affecting them as much as it is you, right? So they have to come to grips also. If they don't come to grips, there's no way they can help you come to it.
You're
So, I know your dad pretty well, and he's a stand-up guy, and I remember your mother, and I could just imagine all right, we're gonna try and shift gears. I wanted that people to hear that story, and those who never saw Jordan Minor play but heard about Jordan Minor but never saw him play, I wanted them to hear that story. So that's a good one. Staying in the recruiting space,
right.
why does it seem like from outsiders like myself that Penn State doesn't recruit Florida very well? They either don't recruit it hard enough or they don't recruit it well enough. Is that a true perspective? Is that not true at all? What is that?
I'm gonna give you my honest take on it, and I'm pretty sure you might agree with some of these takes that I say. I do feel that now they're trying to step foot and mark their grounds, but I don't feel like they're doing it as strong enough. And here's why: just because, hotbeds in Florida, South Florida, Central Florida, like that's pretty much what people outsiders look from the outside in. And so, just from like my expertise, like if they're coming to Florida, they're gonna want to get a guy who's running 4.3 like off the bat, or 4.4 off the bat, because Florida's known for speed, which I can agree with. And if that's your recruiting tool, like if you're trying to check all these boxes, but what I say, just from experience in Florida football, experience in Florida athletes, having to play them in pads and 7-on-7 camps, like Florida athletes have a different level of dog that just can't be measured by just combine stats, like a 40-yard dash or a broad jump or a vertical. Because at the end of the day, like you can go to Idaho and you can find, or you can go to another state, you can find a dude that can jump out the gym. You can find a dude that can run 4.3 in your backyard if he's training on it. But like you can't teach dog, you can't teach heart. And I feel like that's a lot of what Florida produces, is that dog, the heart, and it's the stuff that you can't really teach, or you can't really just point out from a combine paper with just a number and a 40-yard time. So I just feel like they may be looking for specific things in the state of Florida, but if you just go to Florida and you just watch, you're going to see the dogs are out there. Like I always saying, I would tell people, even up at Penn State, I'd be like, look, I know y'all didn't get a chance to see me play, but a 3-star in Florida will be a dog. It will be a 4-star and 5-star up in Pennsylvania. And they'll laugh and they'll say about the Pennsylvania football. But I certainly think it's true. But I feel like now, especially with adding a coach like Jawan Sider on the staff with his ties to the muck in South Florida, and then now with Coach Smith starting to take over the Tampa area pretty well, I do feel like that's something that they are going to start coming in Florida, trying to take over these prospects now.
So you're a 2018 guy.
Yeah.
James Franklin has been there since 2014. Okay?
Right.
And just real quick, the success that he's had 6 double-digit win seasons. Okay. At Penn State, he has 101 wins with a 70% win percentage. Okay. and he's gone 6-6 in bowl games. So just off the top, James Franklin is a winner. All right,
Right.
and from all accounts, you look on the outside like I would want to play for this guy, right? I'd want to play for James Franklin. But there's also that stigma, he can't beat Ohio State. He can't beat freaking Michigan. He can't win the doggone conference, and he can't win the big game. When you hear that, you being a Penn State guy and recruited by James Franklin, what's your retort? What's your pushback, if any?
So I would say, one, it's a lot of things, as you know, it's a lot of things that have to go into not just on the field, but off the field in order to build those successful teams like those Big Ten championship teams, those national championship teams. Just because the teams that we're talking about, the games that we're talking about, we're ultimately talking about the best of the best, because that Ohio State game, Penn State Ohio State game, normally whoever wins that game is going to be playing in the Big Ten championship. That Penn State Michigan game, whoever wins that game is going to be fighting for that in that last game of the year. So like we're talking about big games, but just in terms of like once you get to those moments, I just feel like it's a lot of probably that outside noise feeding in. And then now I feel like the last couple of years, they've been doing a better job of just trying to block out the noise. But at the end of the day, like we're still talking about national top 3 program in Ohio State. That's going to be a great football team. It's going to be a great game. And so just in terms of just getting over that hump, just sticking true to yourself and just don't just rely on just having that little brother mentality. Like we got to go in the games winning, not just going into the games just satisfied with being in them. But I just feel like now, in terms of getting more support from the alumni and the boosters off the field, now Penn State is really just establishing themselves now, because I know having close games with Ohio State's not good enough. So we're going to keep getting that attention. We're going to keep getting those news articles about not being able to win that big game until we get it. So it's just part of the job. So if we don't want to hear those narratives, just win the game. But I definitely feel that Penn State, the coaching staff and the players, they have that mentality now, and just, hey, when that ball come off the boy foot in the beginning of the game, when that kickoff come, at the end of the day, the guys on the field, you got to go in there and win that game. So I feel like it's going to be a good group, and then next year definitely should be able to get over that hump.
So a 13-win season, and you guys ultimately fall to Notre Dame in a great game, 27-24 victory for the Irish. The level of pride that you had this season with how Penn State played, like when you walked around with your Penn State gear on, how did that make you feel, man, with the season you guys had?
Made me feel good, just in terms of just being able to rep this university, great university, from all the people who came before me and the people that will continue to come after me. And then just in terms of this, I know that was one of Coach Franklin's, his big goal was trying to be the first African-American coach to win the national championship. So I know that's something that he sold to me on my recruiting visit. And then I know during my time there, we was always like one game away to making the college football playoffs. So to see them actually make the playoffs this year, have that first round win against Boise State, and then ultimately end up falling one game short of that big moment. It makes me proud, but at the end of the day, as a fan, you want to see your team be the last team on top of that mountain. And so I know that's a lot of the guys at Penn State's goal. So until we get to that point, we got more work to do, but definitely proud to see the university trending upwards.
How do you sell a black kid to Pennsylvania, man? To Happy Valley, snow, it's cold, a Florida kid going all the way up north to a program that's like almost one road in, one road out. What's the selling point, man? How do you get a kid like a 4-star like Jordan Minor to believe that, I want to come to Penn State, ain't a whole bunch of people who look like me up here, but I'm still going to come up here and ball? What's the selling point?
And just touching back on that, I feel like that's a lot of the reason why Penn State might not be able to land a lot of the Florida kids, just because some of those things that you just said. But if I'm being honest with you, Preston, it takes a different type of dude just in terms of the mental aspect. Just because you come to Penn State, you're not going to get a party scene. You're going to get that weather. You're going to get the gloomy weather that makes you not want to go out the house. You're going to get the cold weather. You're going to get the gloomy days. You're not going to get too much of a nightlife really to do stuff outside of just the same old stuff. So I know for me personally, like I went there as kind of just a checkpoint or like a detour because, hey, like I know this is just a stop on the side of the road to go to the league, so I'm just going to be here focused. I don't want no outside distractions. I don't want none of that. So in order to get a Florida kid, you got to get one of those guys who has the head on straight. Like if you come to Florida and you just want a guy who's just probably just wants the NIL, he wants to have fun in college, he wants to party, that's probably not the type of guy you want to get. But if you come to Florida and you meet him, he has goals for himself, he has a plan for his shoulders, like he knows what he wants out of himself. I feel like it's a good place because it can really allow you to lock in if you are doing there and you are going there to say and do what you say you want to do.
That's a good word. That's a good word. That's a good word. That's a good word. Coming out that tunnel,
right,
and seeing the whiteout,
yeah,
for the first time.
Okay,
I am under the impression everybody tries to do a whiteout. People, I played in Nebraska. They have that black shirt defense at the time, and they do black all around the stadium. But seeing that whiteout on TV with that navy blue sitting in the background, bro, that just looks so crisp and clean.
mm-hmm.
What does it look like on the field as a player?
It's crazy, just because, especially the whiteout game. So, like for all the players and all the fans, like they know. Normally, when you go out there for pregame, 90 minutes on the clock, they start slowly filling in. You're gonna see the crowd start slowly coming in. Whiteout game, pregame, 90 minutes on the clock, that thing already full. And so this is I think this is probably the nail in the coffin for my recruiting process, because at the time, at my recruiting process, it really came down to Penn State and Oregon with Coach Taggart's staff at Oregon. And so I was committed to Penn State at the time. So on my official visit, I was still like, okay, Oregon, Penn State. So I'm really using this visit as the chance to see if this really want to come. So it was 2017, Penn State versus Michigan, whiteout. Coming off the year, they just got blown out and they just got embarrassed. So now this is Saquon Barkley, Trace McSorley, all of them. So this is my first time back on campus since the summer. So I took my first visit, first time here for a game. And so the Coach Smith, he was telling me all week, he was like, "Hey man, when you come up here, I'm gonna see if you can handle the lights." I was like, "Man, Coach, I feel like I could play in big games. Like I feel like I'm not want to let the crowd rattle me and everything." He's like, "All right, it's different out here. It's different from the SEC." That's what he kept telling me. It's different from the SEC. So I come there, 110,000 people wearing all white. You walking along the side, people chanting your name, telling them, "Hey, next year this is gonna be you." Seeing all that, and then second play of the game, Saquon took it like 60, crowd jumping, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, this is different." So that whiteout, yeah. So that's the first time I've ever, like, when people say like the field is shaking, like people just like, all right, like that, you're exaggerating. But that time, like the field was actually shaking, like it was crazy.
All right, how many whiteout games do they have a season?
Normally just one. But like now with like the playoffs coming in with the first round home game, I'm guessing now moving forward, if they ever get a first round home game, it will probably be a whiteout. But normally it's just one scheduled one.
And then is it versus who picks which game is going to be?
So that's a great question. Now I feel like with the TV contracts, with like the big noon kickoff and certain TV networks getting big slots, what I thought before, it was normally if we play Ohio State at home or if we play Michigan at home, or like say for instance if Michigan State was like a top 5 team, whoever was normally the team that was going to give us like that biggest challenge, or like we needed the crowd the most that game. So normally it was Ohio State, Michigan, but then now they're with the TV contracts with Ohio State game being that big noon kickoff. They like to do it at night. So now they be getting like Minnesota and like Washington, still good programs, but I just feel like a whiteout hit different if it's like Michigan or like Ohio State game.
Okay, it's beautiful to look at on TV, man.
Yeah,
I played in some big time stadiums, man, but I am a little partial. Just seeing that, I love the old school. I like how Penn State has never gone away from the traditional look. I'm a traditionalist in that, and I love all the alternative uniforms the schools have now. But there's something about those foundational programs and those traditional looks, like Alabama, Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame has somewhat gone away from them, but they still have the same elements there.
yeah.
I love Penn State's especially that navy on white is clean, and then the all white with the pinstripe is clean as I don't know what, man.
Hey, but I'm gonna tell you though, Preston. Now with these kids, I'm gonna be honest with you. Some kids, I've been talking to a lot of people, especially from my time with being a commit and recruiting other guys, and then now guys who came after me.
Yep.
I was talking to one guy trying to get him to come. He was like, "Man, I like Penn State, but y'all don't got no last names on the back of y'all jersey." I
Yeah.
said, "Oh wow!" I was like that, and so thinking just like from my point of view, I was like, "Dang, like all like okay." But then from his point of view, he probably had like that real deep meaning, of like, "Hey, like my family, because they got to see me lay last name on the back, so I gotta respect it." But a lot of things with the uniforms, especially now and then, like with the organs, uniforms they play a part in people's decision making. You'll be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. Shoot, I'll tell you like this. It was crazy. When I was coming out, my top 5 at the time, Notre Dame, Virginia, Wisconsin, Duke, just because my mom wanted me to go to Duke, Virginia and Virginia Tech, right? I was going to take a visit to Wisconsin. However, I was like, nah, I ain't going to take a visit there because at the time Wisconsin was wearing Reebok shoes.
Ooh.
And right, exactly. And I was a pretty good prospect. I had, I could weigh a few options. I had to manage my bag. I didn't have to go there.
Right.
So I basically turned down canceled my Wisconsin visit because they wore Reebok. That was really it. That was it. Everything else was cool. I wasn't gonna wear Reebok. I'm cool on that.
See, hey, I had something similar when I was on the Georgia Tech visit right before they went to Adidas. I think they were wearing like Russell or something. So they had us put on the jersey, take pictures in it. I was like, nah, I can't do this one. So I feel that though.
I can't do that, man. I can't wear Russell. I ain't
nah,
no Reeboks.
Nope, can't do it. But they got nice uniforms now, though.
Yeah. But I was me and my homeboys that play ball together. We took a visit just on our own to the University of Texas. Okay, in Austin, just to go visit because we were going to go hang out in Austin. So we had a few connects up there with the coaching staff. So we went and visited University of Texas, and I didn't go to a rinky-dink university, bro. Like, Notre Dame's big time. It's a lot of great stuff up there. But when we went to UT, it was different.
Made it feel like it, huh?
Bro, it was different. We went into their locker room. It was at the time it was fantastic, and they were renovating it. Okay. However, coaching staff was like, "Yo, we're about to renovate the locker room and put a barbershop in here."
Wow.
So we got to put a barbershop in here because A&M's got a barbershop. Texas A&M's got a barbershop in their locker room, and we're losing prospects just because we ain't got no barbershop in our locker room like A&M. Dead serious, bro. Dead serious. They're redoing the weight room and the freaking locker room at the same time. And the big reason we got to get the kids what they want.
Yeah. Bless you. Thank you. I feel that, but then I feel like with little stuff like that, like, I'm not saying for every person, but like I feel like you can kind of tell like how that prospect kind of like plans out just because like little stuff like that, like I guess to each his own, like that is really a do-all for you, but like if you're not on campus looking up, hey, like how am I gonna fit in your scheme? Like what's the best way for me to get on the field? Like how is this gonna work? But like, hey, like you don't got a barbershop, but like, to each his own. But I feel like now every facility, every I feel like now it should even the schools who aren't Power 4 now. I feel like every school has a great facility, so it's like, hey, you gonna see top notch everywhere. So
right. All right. Got a few more for you. Got a few more.
Okay.
So Drew Aller was solid this year. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not a crazy fan of his, but he was solid. And at one point, he was a top 10 NFL quarterback prospect. All right. In your opinion, over or underrated? How do you like Drew Aller as a quarterback for Penn State?
I like Drew just in the terms just giving you just a little bit of a background. So obviously Drew I think he was the number 1 quarterback coming out. Okay. So like I feel like his first year he was obviously backing up Sean. He was a backup quarterback, and then his next year, I feel like what I see like what teams and offensive coordinators do with a lot of first year quarterbacks who don't want to put too much pressure on them. They kind of put them on a leash a little bit. They kind of let the offense run through a lot of other guys. They kind of don't really open the playbook that much So like his first year, he was super efficient, but like the talks were that they didn't really open up the offense that much for his arm. But I feel like just in terms of him as a talent, he has all the tangibles. I just feel like it just comes down to obviously like when people see like the Notre Dame game, they see his interceptions. I just feel like as a quarterback and as a football player in general, like you're gonna have those games like where it's just not your day, like where you have those mistakes. Because at the end of the day, if you take away those 3 plays out of the game, like I feel like Penn State runs away with that game. But it's obviously going to be a magnifying glass on the biggest games and the biggest games of the year. So for people just seeing that game, they probably be like, "Oh, Drew Allar's not a good quarterback," but they probably don't know that Drew Aller has been the most efficient quarterback in Penn State history with his touchdown to interception ratio, and that's with offense that's quote unquote that was handicapping him in the past. But I just feel like him as he is a good quarterback, talented quarterback. Obviously, can eliminate some of those mental mistakes, especially in the big moments and those big times. I feel like that just comes from just really having confidence in himself, maybe trusting his arm a little bit too much in the situation rather than just living to see another down. But especially with what I just hear from him and then from the coaching staff, he's a smart football player. Definitely, a football player is going to have a chip on his shoulder and is definitely going to use that as motivation for next year.
Saquon Barkley, the league's real MVP, if you ask me, got shafted. All right, goes sets history, most rushing yards in the NFL season. Goes and wins the Super Bowl last night. Whenever you guys see this, it was last night. What's the text message group? What those group messages going? What they look like on the phone talking about Saquon and that Super Bowl win, man? What does it look like?
So first, before Saquon, I know it's a Saquon question, but my roommate, Jahan Dotson, he was in that Super Bowl. He was making big plays. He ended up setting up that first touchdown, catching that big goal ball on the side. So I know when Jahan made that play, I was screaming. I was running out my house just because freshman year, we ended up sharing the same room, sharing the same dorm. So countless nights of just playing Madden, putting the features on Super Bowl mode. And so then to now have him playing in the Super Bowl, making big plays for his team, ultimately ended up winning. Like, just so proud of him. So because he ended up getting traded during the year before the season, getting traded from Washington to Philly. So having to deal with that, but ultimately God had a greater path for him. And now getting able to get some jewelry. But with Saquon, his whole year just has been a movie. So seeing that, like you just go on Twitter, you just go on Instagram, seeing that everyone's story who played at Penn State, just like, yo, this dude's ridiculous. But he never fails to amaze me. Like I've been telling people, even since I was a recruit, seeing like his practice clips, like going to see him in live. Like I've been saying since 2017 that he's the best football player I've ever seen in person. So now being a stamped 2K Russian Super Bowl, now it ain't really too much you can say about him.
Best football player you've seen in person. That's saying something. And hey, Saquon is a different animal.
Yeah.
He's a different animal. All right. Well, look, I want you to tell us you've transitioned out of football successfully. You've got a podcast of your own.
Yeah.
Tell us what you got going on the backside, Jordan, and anything else that you want to enlighten the fans about.
Yep. So I started, got a podcast going with my man, Ernest Walker. He's a student at FAMU. He actually had the podcast started a couple years ago, like pre-COVID. And then now, I think 2023 is when I hit him up like, hey, like this is what I want to get into. Like, you want to start this thing back up and get it going just because I feel like I got a lot of good connections to get on, get to hear their stories, really hear about not just athletes, but primarily most of our guests are athletes, but not just athletes, but a lot of other cool people that do a lot of cool things, just hearing their story about where they got to where they are. So been excited, been blessed to have a lot of good resources, a lot of good connections, hop on the pod. So really just doing that. I'm really still in that position of my life, still figuring out like what I like to do outside of football, just because like I just felt like just my story while having to retire, like I went through like a lot of years of like really looking back at it like a serious depression of not really having too many interests, just wanted to just stay to myself, feeling bad at myself. So like now I just feel like I'm still trying to learn more about myself, spark new interests, keep myself busy. So that's something that we like to do. We pretty much have an episode once every 2 weeks, and now that football season's over, I know a lot of guys who actually were just playing in the Super Bowl, who are in the NFL, they're going to be hopping on the pod soon. So I'm excited. A lot of big things coming soon.
Well, for Preston Jackson and Jordan Miner, we're going to clock out of this one. It's been a pleasure, Jordan, and Nittany Lion Nation. Hopefully we get a lot of fan views and they can come see your store if they already don't know, and anybody else around the area who remembers the name and wonder what Jordan Miner is up to. So, Uno, send it out for us.
Hey, man, Press, I appreciate you having me on. And so just want to take a quick second just to send a message to all the up-and-coming recruits, up-and-coming football players maybe coming up that may be following BCP or just maybe in the Tampa Bay area. Just, I would say, just keep going, put your head down, keep working, because nowadays, especially college, with the NIL, I'm not saying don't let the NIL be your only focus, but especially now NIL, still keep the NFL the main path. There's a lot of money out here that can change your family's lives, so just keep your head down, keep focused, and then just keep dreaming, because there's a lot of things out there for you.